Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into a really significant moment in the music world.
Yeah, it involves one of the biggest artists out there, Taylor Swift.
We've got this fantastic article from The Guardian, and it lays out all the details.
And it's not just about her, right? It's like a fascinating look at the whole business side of music. Artist rights, control, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So our mission here, really based only on what this article tells us, is to walk you through the key events.
We need to understand why these things called master recordings are so important.
Yeah, and explore the strategy behind her whole re-recording project.
And then look at the bigger picture, like what this means for the music world generally.
It's quite a story. It got twists, turns, big money involved.
And a really passionate fight for, owning your own art. Okay, let's get into it.
So the big news. The headline stuff from the Guardian article that got us started.
Taylor Swift. She's officially bought back the master recordings of her first 6 albums.
Wow. And the article explains what that actually means, right?
Yeah, it means for the first time ever, she owns all the music she's ever made, the whole catalog.
Apparently, she wrote this letter saying she'd almost given up hope it could ever happen.
Right, after feeling like the chance to buy her work was sort of dangled just out of reach for years.
That's powerful. So how did she lose control in the first place? And what exactly are master recordings? People hear the term, but.
Good question. So master recordings, they're basically the original final sound files, the definitive version.
Like the source code for the song?
Kind of, yeah. Huh. Everything gets copied from that master streaming, CDs, vinyl, whatever.
Okay.
And historically, especially back when Swift started out, it was pretty standard for the record label, not the artist, to own those masters.
So her first label, Big Machine, they owned them.
That's right, for those first 6 albums.
Got it. So Big Machine had them. Then what happened?
Well, in 2019, Big Machine sold her entire music catalog, all those masters, to a music executive named Scooter Braun.
Ah, yes. And the article makes a point of saying this was something Swift called her worst-case scenario.
Yeah. That wording is pretty strong. It suggests how deeply she felt about it.
She felt she wasn't really given a proper chance to buy her own work directly.
Right. The offer she described, it was more like she could earn back ownership. One album's masters for every new album she recorded for the label.
Wow. Okay. So keep making new music for them just to get the old stuff back piece by piece. That's quite the condition.
It frames it very differently than just a straightforward sale opportunity.
And the article mentions the connection to Kanye West, too, managed by Braun, and their history. Adds another layer, doesn't it?
Definitely adds context to the personal stakes involved for her.
Okay, so Braun buys the catalog in 2019. What happens next?
The story keeps going. In November 2020, Braun then sold those master recordings again.
To who this time?
To a private equity firm called Shamrock Capital.
Right, Shamrock Capital. So for listeners, that's basically an investment company buying this music catalog as an asset.
Exactly. And the Guardian article gives a figure for that sale reported $300 million.
$300 million just for those first 6 albums masters? That's a huge sum.
It really shows the value inherent in popular music catalogs.
And now, the latest development, Swift has bought them back from Shamrock.
Yes. And it's not just the sound recordings. The article is clear on that.
What else is included?
It says videos, concert films, album art, photography, even unreleased songs from that era.
So like the whole creative package associated with those albums?
Pretty much everything. It's comprehensive.
And what about the price she paid? There were rumors flying around, right? Big numbers.
Yeah, the article specifically mentions that. It says those previous rumors, figures like $600 million up to maybe $1 billion, are inaccurate. Way too high, according to the source.
Okay, good to clarify that. Now let's shift to Swift's side of things. Her perspective from that letter the article mentions.
Right. She talks about this being a long-term goal. Her desire to purchase her music outright with no strings attached.
No partnership with full autonomy. That phrase really jumps out, full control.
Absolutely. And she gives a lot of credit to Shamrock Capital. Calls them the first people to ever offer this.
Praises how they handled it, too.
Yeah. She says they were honest, fair, respectful in their interactions.
That sounds like a very different experience for her.
It seems so. She felt they saw it as more than just, a business deal.
How so?
She said they recognized it represented her memories and her sweat and her handwriting and her decades of dreams. Deeply personal stuff.
Wow. That's quite a statement. And she joked about a shamrock tattoo.
She did. A huge shamrock tattoo. And shows the relief, maybe. A bit of humor after a long fight.
Definitely. And she credited her fans, too, didn't she?
Yeah, big time. Said their support was key in helping reunite her with this art.
Okay, so she now owns the originals. But before this happened, after the sale to Braun, she started that massive re-recording project.
Ah, yes, the Taylor's version project. This is where the strategy gets really interesting, according to the article.
So the main purpose was what, exactly?
Well, after Braun bought the masters, she couldn't control them. So the re-recordings were a way to regain some control.
And also, crucially, to devalue the originals that someone else owned.
Exactly. If fans stream and buy her new versions, the old ones become less valuable, particularly for things like use in ads or movies.
Right, because she created these new recordings, clearly branded them Taylor's version.
Often adding bonus from the vault tracks, making them even more appealing to fans.
And the key thing is, as the main songwriter, she had the right to re-record the songs.
Right. And she could also potentially block or approve the use of the original recordings in commercials, films, TV shows, what they call syncs.
That's a lot of leverage. So this project kicked off in 2021.
Yep. And the article lists the ones she re-recorded and released between 2021 and 2023.
Which ones were they again?
Fearless, Red, Speak Now, and 1989. 4 out of the 6.
And we've seen the strategy work in practice. The article gives an example.
Yeah, the re-recorded Look What You Made Me Do, which is actually from Reputation, Taylor's version, which isn't even out yet. That version showed up in the TV show The Handmaid's Tale, not the original.
Okay, so that directly impacts the value and use of the original masters owned by Shamrock at the time.
Precisely. So that leaves 2 albums from that original 6-album deal that haven't had their Taylor's version released yet.
Right, Reputation from 2017, and her very first album, the self-titled one from 2006.
And the article mentions, all the fan speculation about when those might drop.
But here's a really interesting point the article raises now.
Go on.
Now that she owns the original masters again, the main reason for doing the re-recordings,
which was to devalue the ones she didn't own and regain control.
Exactly. That reason is kind of gone, or at least much less urgent. The article says there's less reason to proceed with the re-recordings in the same way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Swift actually talked about Reputation specifically in her letter, didn't she?
Yeah, very openly. The article says she was transparent, admitting she hadn't even re-recorded a quarter of it yet.
And she explained why, right? It was difficult.
Really difficult, emotionally. She said it was so specific to that time in her life that she kept hitting a wall, just couldn't quite get back into that headspace to redo it.
The article kind of paints that era as that goth punk moment of female rage.
Yeah.
Dealing with feuds, intense media pressure.
Yeah, being gaslit by an entire social structure, accusations, her public image tanking. It was a heavy time.
You can hear it in how she described the album's feeling.
All that defiance, that longing to be understood while feeling purposely misunderstood, that desperate hope, that shame-born snarl and mischief.
Wow.
That's intense.
And she basically said it felt like the one album out of those first 6 that maybe couldn't be improved by redoing it. Not the music or photos, but that raw feeling.
So she just kept putting it off. The emotional connection was too strong, too specific.
But she did tease the Reputation Vault tracks, right? So said maybe if you're into the idea, a little something for the fans there.
Okay, so that's Reputation. What about the debut album? The first one ever?
Well, the article confirms she has actually re-recorded that one already.
Oh. And how does she feel about it?
She said she really loves how it sounds now.
Okay, so a totally different vibe compared to Reputation. She's happy with that one.
Seems like it.
So she owns everything now. Reputation TV is emotionally complex and mostly undone. Debut TV is done. She likes it. What's the plan for them?
Well, according to the article, Swift says both albums can still have their moments to reemerge when the time is right.
Okay, so maybe still coming. But the key thing she mentioned is the reason for releasing them now would be different.
Exactly. She stated really clearly, if they come out now, it won't be from sadness and longing for what I wish I could have.
It'll be
just a celebration now.
That's a huge shift in perspective. Releasing them out of joy and ownership, not out of necessity or strategy against someone else.
Totally changes the narrative. And it's worth remembering, even with just 4 re-recordings out so far, the project has been unbelievably successful.
Oh, massively. The article points out these Taylor's version albums broke her own records.
The commercial records, chart records.
It gives that specific UK example for 1989 Taylor's version, its first week numbers.
184,000 combined streams and sales.
Were more than double what the original album sold in its entire first year back in 2014, which was 90,000.
That is just staggering. It really shows her current cultural dominance and how effective the re-recording strategy was in engaging her fan base.
And remember, this was all happening while she was also putting out brand new albums.
Right. Folklore, Evermore, Midnights, the Tortured Poets Department. It's been an incredibly prolific period.
And it all feeds into the Eras Tour, obviously. The article mentions the tour's insane success.
Over $1 billion, heading towards maybe $2 billion total gross, just showcasing this huge catalog that she was simultaneously re-recording and adding to.
The re-recordings definitely helped keep that older material relevant and center stage during all this.
But maybe one of the biggest takeaways from this whole saga, something the Guardian article really emphasizes, is the impact beyond Taylor Swift herself.
How so?
It highlights how her very public fight over her masters really ignited these industry-wide conversations about artists' rights.
Made people pay attention to ownership in a way they maybe hadn't before?
Exactly. And it seems to have had a real effect. The article states it's now far more common, particularly for young female artists, to own their masters
than it was for the teenage Swift in 2006. Wow. So her struggle actually helped change the landscape for artists coming up now.
That seems to be the argument. Her experience served as a kind of case study, or maybe a warning, for others negotiating their first deals.
And Swift herself acknowledges this in her letter, right?
Yeah, she says it means a lot when new artists tell her they negotiated for ownership because of her story.
That must feel validating after everything she went through.
You'd think so. And she also gives huge thanks to her fans again for caring about what could seem like a dry, industry-centric issue.
She says their support was vital in reaching this point where she could finally get her art back.
So if we look back at this whole journey laid out in the article, losing control, the fight, the clever re-recording strategy.
And now, finally, actually reclaiming full ownership of all that early work.
It's quite the arc.
It really underscores how much owning their creations means to artists. It's clearly way more than just business or money.
Yeah, it's tied up with identity, history, control over your own narrative.
And it definitely shows the kind of complex, long-game strategies artists might need in the music business today.
So, thinking about this whole struggle and how it resolved for her, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the value you place on owning your own creative work or your intellectual output, whatever field you're in.
That's a really good point. It's not just a music thing at all, that feeling of ownership and control.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on what the article suggests about industry change.
Yeah.
If one artist's fight, amplified by her platform and fan support, can genuinely start to shift industry norms around something as fundamental as ownership. What other established ways of doing things, what other power structures in the creative world might be ready for a similar challenge?
What else could be changed if people push for it?
Yeah.
Something to definitely think about.